Yes, all you sports fans out there, it is true. We will have professional sports played here in America this summer, and it comes in the form of the Premier Lacrosse League, which announced last week the creation of its championship series for the 2020 season. Now, the season will feature 14 regular season games, with each team playing 4 games. Then come the playoffs, where all 7 teams will be seeded based on overall record and point differential. So if you followed the league last year like I did, it's basically the same idea, only now things get a little more intense because of the shorter season. As I mentioned, each team this summer getting 4 regular season games. Last year in the traditional season format, they would get 10. So not only does every win matter this year, but now every goal matters as much too. So it's not going to just be enough to win, but you also have to win big in order to help your seeding in the postseason. And as for the draft, which will air tonight on NBC Sports Networks at 7 p.m. Eastern, the draft will be missing some of the game's top names in the collegiate level this summer, because they all elected to go back for their 5th years of eligibility, which were granted to them by the NCAA for this one-time exception due to COVID-19. But we'll talk about that more in a few minutes, because that's sort of the whole premise of this show, is to be the PLL mock draft show. So we'll get to that a little bit in just a minute. So some of the names are missing, but this class is still loaded with talent. But then the other thing that was announced yesterday was that the league is partnering with Genius Sports, which will help them implement sports betting starting this summer with the championship series and on into the future. So now not only will you be able to watch PLL games, but you'll even be able to place bets on the game as well, with prop bets seemingly being the most important feature here for the league. And as a novice sports bettor myself, I've never once in my life bet on a sporting event before, but I'm actually pretty intrigued by this, and I feel like I'll have to check it out later this summer when the season begins. But we can talk about that more later, especially here on the podcast. If that's something that you guys would be interested in, that you want to get into, we can do some segments on that once the season rolls around in late July. But as I mentioned, this is the reason that we are doing this episode. It is the PLL Collegiate Draft, and this show is dedicated to the Taking the Field PLL 2020 Collegiate Draft mock show. Again, tonight at 7 p.m. is the actual draft on NBC Sports. And the draft will be a little bit different this year than last year. Last year it was 4 rounds, each team getting a pick per round. This year it's shortened down to 2 rounds, with each team getting 2 picks total, so 14 picks in all between the 7 teams. And you may be wondering, well, what happens to the draft picks that were traded earlier, like say last season or during this off season, that were for this draft tonight? And the simple answer is those picks will now be deferred to 2021. So for example, the trade that sent Miles Jones from the Chaos to the Redwoods in exchange for Sergio Salcido and a draft pick, that draft pick now moves back to 2021. Same with the deal that sent Romar Dennis from the Chrome to the Atlas in exchange for the Atlas's 3rd round pick this year. That pick will also now be pushed back to 2021. And as I mentioned, some of the game's top players from this past collegiate season will not be participating in this year's draft, such as T.D. Erlin, Mac O'Keefe, Dox Aitken, J.T. Giles Harris, Michael Sowers, and Jared Bernhardt, all electing to go back for their 5th years of eligibility, and all but Aitken has reportedly gone back to finish their college lacrosse careers. Aitken will be the exception. He is looking to transfer from Virginia to Villanova to play 1 year of eligibility in football. But still, as I said, this draft is still loaded with lots of talent, especially in this first round. And this is where we will get into the Taking the Field 2020 PLL mock draft. And with that, the Archers are on the clock first, and they'll select Grant Ament, the attackman out of Penn State. So Ament can really be the quarterback of this offense like he was at Penn State, allowing Marcus Holman and Will Manny to play out on the wings, with Tom Schreiber and Dominique Alexander dodging off that 2-man game from up top. With the second pick, the Atlas select Brian Costabile, the midfielder out of Notre Dame. So Costabile is just a flat-out shooter. Paul Carcaterra has compared him to current Atlas offensive mid Connor Busick. He would be able to shoot off a dodge or seemingly benefit from open looks off the two-man game from Paul Rabel and Joel Tinney. The Atlas offensive mid unit would then feature Rabel, Tinney, Busick, John Crawley, Romar Dennis, who they got in the trade, and Costabile, working with an attack unit that has Rob Pennell, Eric Law, and Ryan Brown. With the third pick, the Water Dogs select Michael Kraus, the attackman out of Virginia, so a lot of offense coming off the board early here in this mock draft. Kraus is a tough finisher through contact. You can put a body on him or get on his hands and it won't really do you much good because he'll still find a way to finish the shot. Kraus would slide in at attack with Wes Berg and Kieran McCardle, and I could see Christian Cuccinello sliding up to the midfield here. Cuccinello would then join an offensive mid group of Ben McIntosh, Connor Kelly, and Drew Snyder. With the fourth pick in the 2020 PLL Collegiate Draft, the Chrome select Nick Mellon, the defenseman out of Syracuse. So Mellon is Carcaterra's top defenseman in the draft, and he has quick feet but an equally quick stick when playing on the ball. His pokes and slaps are very well timed and well placed, and there's not really a lot of extra body movement with Mellon. The Chrome struggled really on defense in 2019, and they lost 2019 draft pick Chris Sabia to the Water Dogs. So I think that Nick Mellon would really help out the defense in front of either John Galloway or Brett Queener this summer. With the fifth pick, the Chaos select Andrew Pettit, the attackman out of Lehigh. So Pettit's really more of a depth pick here for the Chaos offense that lost Miles Jones to the Redwoods. And in return, they were able to get Sergio Salcido, who I think can provide the Chaos with a dodging midfielder from up top. But as for Pettit, he would join an attack unit of Miles Thompson, Connor Fields, and Jake Fricaro, and he would really help space the offense for a guy like Fields who likes to operate from behind the cage, and he'll also offer Fields another option within that offense. I think that if the Chaos were to pick Pettit here, Josh Byrne would probably slide up to the offensive mid in this scenario to pair with Salcido, Deemer Class, and Kevin Buchanan. With the sixth pick in the first round, the Redwoods select Peyton Smith out of Marist, the faceoff specialist. So I've seen a couple mock drafts with the Redwoods taking a defenseman here, such as Mellon or Mark Evanchik, who we'll talk about later. But I think that really they're set on defense with Eddie Glazner, Garrett Epple, Matt Landis, Larkin Kemp, and John Sexton all already on the roster. I think that with Greg Gorenlian retiring, the biggest hole that this team really has right now is at faceoff, where they return only Jerry Raganese from the Redwoods, who the Redwoods acquired mid-season in 2019 from the Archers. And the Woods also selected a faceoff specialist in the entry draft, but I think that Smith would really give them a clear-cut number one faceoff specialist from day one, where you would essentially be replacing one of the best faceoff specialists in the game in Gorenlian with one of the best young players available at that position in Peyton Smith. And then with the last pick in the seventh pick in the first round, the Whipsnakes select Matt Gaudette, the attackman out of Yale. So after the Whipsnakes won the championship in 2019, Jim Stagnita left every one of his attackmen unprotected in the expansion draft except for MVP Matt Rambo. Rambo returns to the Whips along with teammate Dylan Maltz at attack. Gaudette would help them round out this unit while benefiting from playing in the same offense as Rambo, who will pretty much demand the attention of opposing defenses. So when defenses are forced to slide to Rambo as he moves above GLE from X, that's really where Gaudette's going to make his money in this league. So that does it for the first round, 7 picks in. With the first pick in the second round and 8th overall, the Water Dogs select Matt DeLuca, the goalie out of Delaware. After beefing up their offense in the first round, the Water Dogs will get another backup goalie option in the second round here for Charlie Cipriano, their presumed starter, after they sign Tate Boyce out of Providence. It'll basically be a battle for the number 2 spot between DeLuca and Boyce to back up Cipriano. With the second pick in the second round, the Chrome select Miles Silva, the attackman out of Army. The Chrome addressed their defense in the first round by getting Mellon. Now they'll go attack here with Miles Silva to go with Jordan Wolf and Justin Gutterding. With the third pick in the second round and 10th overall, the Atlas select Mark Evanchik, the defenseman out of Penn. The Atlas couldn't really pass on taking an offensive weapon like Costabile in the first round, so now they'll look to address their defense. The Atlas lost Noah Richard to the Water Dogs, but replaced him with Craig Schick. I personally wasn't really sold on Austin Pafani last summer, so adding Evanchik would pretty much make Pafani expendable with Tucker Durkin, Callum Robinson, Cade Van Raphorst, Kyle Hartzell, and Schick also on the roster at that point as long poles. With the 4th pick in the second round and 11th overall, the Archers select Tanner Cook, the midfielder out of North Carolina. Now, this is a pick that I got from Pro Lacrosse Talk, but here's my explanation for the pick. With Danny Ipe, Ben McIntosh, and Christian Cuccinello all being selected by the Water Dogs in the expansion draft, all that really remains of the Archers midfield unit is Tom Schreiber, Dominique Alexander, and Joey Sankey, who's listed as attack, but I think he'll see most of his minutes this summer at the midfield. Tanner Cook would just add another body to this unit and will benefit from playing with a quarterback like Grant Ament, who the team took number 1 overall earlier in the draft. With the 5th pick in the second round, 12th overall, the Chaos select Tom Rigney, the defenseman out of Army. This pick also comes courtesy of Pro Lacrosse Talk, and here's the summary of their explanation on the pick. The Chaos are basically known for the bomb squad, including Troy Ray and Jared Newman, but Rigney won't likely be the next in line to join that list. Instead, he'll make a name for himself with his defensive abilities, playing both fast and physical, which is just how Andy Towers wants to play. With the 6th pick in the second round and 13th overall, the Redwoods select Jack Keelty, the defenseman out of Notre Dame. So this is another Pro Lacrosse Talk-inspired pick, but they have him going higher than this at number 6 to the Woods. But here's my rationale for the pick at 13. So after solidifying their faceoff spot in the first round, the Redwoods look to add depth to an already intimidating defensive unit. The Woods did lose Brian Karalunas to the Water Dogs, and Matt Landis has military service obligations that could prevent him from playing this summer. Not saying it will, just saying that it's something to consider. So Keelty gives the Woods some insurance on defense while continuing that sort of South Bend to Redwoods connection. And he hasn't really announced if he's planning on returning for his final year of eligibility or not. But if he does come out in the draft tonight, it could be a great pickup for Nat St. Laurent, who has already proven from last year's draft that he is a good judge of talent when it comes to drafting. And with the 14th and final pick in the Taking the Field PLL Collegiate Mock Draft, the Whip Snakes select Reese Eddy, the defenseman out of Boston. This is another pick coming from Pro Lacrosse Talk, and here's the breakdown of the pick. The Whip Snakes added to an already impressive offense in the first round, so why not really do the same to the defense in the second round with this final pick? The top LSM spot is really Mike Earhart's to lose, but things get kind of thin behind him because Isaac Papara was there last year, saw time behind Earhart. But really, Reese Eddy would give them another option at the LSM position, and he's a solid one for sure. You know, prior to the season being cut short in the spring, Eddy was second in the nation in caused turnovers per game and third in caused turnovers overall for Boston. So that just about does it for this PLL mock draft. 2 rounds, all 14 picks accounted for. We'll see how it goes down tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern on NBC Sports. That'll do it for this episode of Taking the Field. Make sure to like, share, and comment on this post. Tell me who you guys think that each team will take with their picks. And check back in tomorrow as we'll have a follow-up episode to this one, kind of recapping the collegiate draft and kind of taking a look back at the off-season for the PLL while also getting ready for the start of this championship series in July. But that'll do it for this episode. Don't forget to check back in tomorrow.